Mad, desperate, or grimly determined to survive, wizards aplenty are shuffling around the realms as wingless wonders, waiting to be discovered. Most gamers have forgotten that this ridiculous monster that the wider gaming world first saw in issue 40 of The Dragon magazine, as it still was then, its best and proper title in my opinion. And when you consider what actually got printed, though I still deem my illustration endearingly cute, that's probably deserved, because what appeared in the magazine was an oddity, a player-baffling monster of the sort often referred to back then as spell wasters. Its truncated entry left it that, and only that, a duck-billed platypus sort of "why does this exist?" creature that seems useful only to provide a moment of comic humor or player puzzlement to break up other styles of play. The problem was, this little beastie was entirely stripped of its realm's flavor and place, and the sort of story that spurs adventures and DM creativity. You see, the Wingless Wonder is an oddity, a rather helpless creature of comical appearance that all who encounter it are inclined to wonder how it came about, hence its name, Wingless Wonder. But many, perhaps most of these critters wandering the realms, enjoying, if they don't fall afoul of predators they can ill defend themselves against, very long lifespans, didn't begin life as wonders. They are wizards, forced into the shape of wonders through the use of a formerly popular Farunian spell, a specialized curse. Victims of a Thaler's Wonder, as I dubbed the second edition spell included with the article, retain their wits, unless or until frustration drives them mad, but they lose their power of speech, and unless they can find some clever way of convincing someone else to cast dispel magic or remove curse on them, are trapped for the rest of their long count of days in wonder form. Which makes wonders, once players take the trouble to learn about this past fashion for trapping wizards in wonder shape as solemn punishments, or as harm done by vengeful rivals or the victors in spell duels, spell wasters of a different sort. Player characters who meet one in a dungeon or ruin may spend to dispel magic or remove curse in hopes of gaining an ally who might still have spells memorized that the PC party may soon desperately need, or old wizards with feuds and unfinished quests and hidden treasure of their own who can lead player characters straight into fresh adventures. The point is, everything in the realms has an underlying layer, a backstory. It can be ignored by those not interested, or if a particular tale isn't the taste of a dungeon master or players, or doesn't fit with unfolding play in their campaign, but it's there, hidden treasure to be dredged up and made use of by the gamers who do find it intriguing or useful. If you're enjoying this video, please leave me a like or subscribe. If you want to see other videos in the future, please hit the bell icon. And if you want a steady stream of Realmslore, please jaunt out to my Patreon, Ed Greenwood on Patreon, and consider becoming a protector of the realms. Magic items have their backstories, and so do many spell powers or features that will only manifest or awaken in the right locales or the right conditions. One facet of the realms that has never been developed in the printed version, largely because one overworked staff designer after another saw what an endless rabbit hole it was and decided they preferred sanity to exploring this, is what certain rare or unique spells of the realms do in combination with other cast spells. The notorious what happens when this cast magic collides with that one, writing up the possibilities of what chaos ensues when a fireball strikes a prismatic sphere or the like, can yield endless thick sourcebooks, and storytellers, both fictioneers and dungeon masters, might wince at such an approach, and with good reason, because they want to reserve what happens in such situations for their own decision-making so they can spin the best possible story, and if need be, emphasize the chaos by not having the same result occur twice in the same situation, as players have a habit of turning any observed in-game phenomenon into a tactic for future use. Yet, sweeping such complications aside, consider also that every place in the realms has at least one story firmly attached to it. For features like mountains, rivers, forests, and swamps, it's usually how the place got its common name. But for castles, villages, and cities, it's an interesting tale that's part of the history of the place. The sort of thing you'd find in a travel guidebook for a real-world spot, except that I have always concocted such stories as adventure hooks. Is there a haunting or undead involved? Or dragon treasure? Or dwarven mind but lost and accursed gem loads? Some places, fortified cities or citadels in the Sword Coast, for example, have an orc history and a dwarf history that clash on most things and agree on few. And even events, battles, the rise or fall of realms, and various divine manifestations, for example, are seen differently by different nationalities, races, faiths, or camps of sages, historians, all of which mean truths can be twisted or covered up, leaving things lost and forgotten until an unwitting or painstakingly investigative adventurer happens along. Ever toyed with the idea of running a campaign centered on a band of treasure hunters who research old tales and rumors in hopes of finding tombs or battle caches or caverns where spellcasting experiments went awry and slew the experimenters, leaving all their magic floating in weird magical stasis fields with their corpses? I have, and so can tell you that the Realms has been richly furnished with leads a dungeon master can use to weave a rich buffet of treasure tales for player characters to follow up on. Hint, Volo mentions a lot of such lore, though he gets things so incomplete and so wrong that a dungeon master can change just about everything with impunity. If you do pick up on this idea, don't forget that many merchants or mages cabals in the realms, and most priesthoods, will have their own professional treasure seekers, Indiana Jones-like intrepid non-player character adventurers who follow up on tales capably and ready to ally with adventurers, or dupe them, or hire them to do the hard parts. In short, everything in the realms has a story if you want it to, and stories beget stories. A good dungeon master watches the moods, tastes, and capabilities of their players and decides when layers of stories are wearying them or just in the way of really enjoying the current adventure. Stories can be forgotten until years later, when someone realizes or recalls something and says, "Wait a minute, we never, oh," and then adventure begins anew. Welcome back to Realmspeak, and this time around we're doing this. The Witches of Rashemen, as most folk elsewhere in the realms will collectively call them, are technically the Wychlaran, or the Wychlaran, or even the Wychlaran. All three are correct. And by the way, if I was in the presence of one of the Wychlaran, I wouldn't use any of them. I'd say lady, because that might go over better. Because for some reason, they don't like being referred to collectively. I think it's because even though they do work collectively to protect their realm against the aggressive realm of Thay to the east, I don't think they like to be thought of as working in lockstep, in concert. They're very individualistic. It's just that they all think the same way, so they reach the same conclusions. So they don't like being part of the Wychlaran, or Wychlaran, or Wychlaran. They like to be thought of as themselves. Don't we all want to be ourselves?